Hi there, got a little bit of a basics tutorial, crochet tutorial today. I've not done one for a while and I don't really do them very often. But this particular pattern here, or this stitch should I say, this loop stitch, I think it does have other names. I'm calling it a loop stitch. I sort of had a challenge recently because I was putting forward a pattern design for Simply Crochet. Well, not putting it forward, it is going to be in the magazine. And I'd done this cushion design and I decided madly that I wanted to do loop stitch. Now, I've always avoided it, to be honest. It's been a stitch I was a little bit nervous about because I'm like, well, I'm not sure about getting the levelness of it. You know, is each sort of loop going to be equal sizes? I had watched videos, but some are like, okay, it sort of makes sense. But then so I decided, no, I'm going to front it. I'm going to do this stitch. And I did find a little way of doing it, which does seem different to some people's. I've not watched everybody's videos, so I presume it might be the same as somebody's. But just to get this nice evenness. So I thought I'd show you. Just thought I'd show you. This is a little bit of a preview colour wise as well, because this is the colour I used for the magazine. Not sure when it's going to be in. I think it might be ones after Christmas now, because obviously the magazine world, they work sort of 3 months in advance, and I know I've got a bag going in first. So let's have a look at how I did this, and it might help somebody. It might not be your method, so you may think, oh, I'm not going to do that. But I just thought it was quite cute. So I've got into it now, and I'm going to want to make things with it. I'm trying to think of doll things I can make with it. Make real sort of cute sort of, I don't know, 1970s look cardigan or something like that. A sort of boucle cardigan. But yeah, absolutely love doing it when I got into doing it. But it wasn't so easy to start with. So I thought I'd do a video, because I also had to describe it in the magazine, which was really hard. So it just sort of helped. This just sort of goes along with it. So if you do get it later, you can watch the video as well. I'm just using a 4mm hook just for demonstration. It doesn't matter what we're using for this. It's a little bit of a practice run, and this is just a double knit. This is just Stylecraft double knit. So I'm just going to start by doing obviously our slip knot and onto the hook. Now all I've done here, I think it was 20 stitches. Okay, so I've just done 20 chain along. It is just a practice piece. You could, for that, I think you're better off keeping it small for practice, and then decide on how you're going to apply it to whatever you're wanting to make. So let's start with just 20 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep moving your fingers up. 7, 8, 9 and 10. I'm just going to undo a bit of this yarn because it's going to start rolling about. My cat is actually in here, so I've got to watch for that. She's on the dog's bed at the moment, so hopefully she'll leave me alone. The poor dog never gets the bed. It's the cat that gets the bed. So we've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So I've just got 20 chain there, nothing exciting. We're now going to do 1 double crochet. Now before I carry on, please remember I am using UK terms. So that is why it is a double crochet. I know in the US that is a single crochet, but as you see the stitch, you will know, you'll guess, excuse me. But we do call them double crochets here. So I'm going to do a row of double crochet. So in we go, into the chain, pull it through, 2 on the hook and pull it through. That's my double crochet. It's just one of the more basic stitches that you will use in crochet, especially if you do a lot of amigurumi work. It is quite an important one for that. So we'll get on and do our 1 row of double crochet. With a lot of stitches, I do have a tendency, I mean there is a reason for doing it for this one, but I do have a tendency to always start with a row of double crochets. I just think it neatens it up from the chain. I think sometimes it's hard to take a stitch straight from chain. I know I particularly do it when I'm doing something like a V-stitch. I won't sort of, as I go to the chain, I have to do a DC row first. Personal preferences though, everybody's different for that. So we're almost there with this double crochet row. Just my foundation row, isn't it really? Couple more stitches. And oh, what have I done there? Have I wrapped? Oh, I'm terrible. If you've been doing other stitches, if you're anything like me, if you've been doing more of something else, you know, more trebles or more whatever stitch you've been doing, then you go to do something else, you just can't stop wrapping it or not wrapping it. Right, there we go. Last stitch in there. Just tighten that up and I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit. Now we're going to do our first row of the loops, and this is the one that, as I say, I'm relatively new to this, and I did a method that I'm hoping is going to help other people. So I'm going to do one chain. I like to do my turn chain before I turn, then I'm going to turn. Most patterns will say on the next row, I know that, but I like to do it there. And my first stitch is going to be a double crochet. There we go. So we have a double crochet, and my next stitch is going to be my loop, and every single one of these is going to have a loop stitch in it. So we're going to take our time. I'm sat at a very strange angle actually because of the camera here, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do it as easy as when I'm not sat in this position. Basically, I go into the stitch. Now I'm a 4-finger holder, so it can depend on how you hold your yarn this, but basically you need to go over, so over this first one, and can you see just behind my finger, can you see it there? I'm going to pull that, it's still over, and I'm going to pull it through. Now we have a loop here which is rather massive, and this is where I then had the trouble. I'm like, well, how do I let go of that and alter my loop size? So what I actually did was I swapped the finger, then I tightened it up to the length I wanted, because I wanted them all about finger width, so that is why I did it. And then a little cheeky swap over to flatten that out of my way, and continued with a double crochet. So that's my first loop. So we'll do that again. So you just go in the stitch as normal, it goes over this front part, and behind my finger, let me twist it so you can see. Can you see where the yarn is tucked around my finger? That is where I'm just grabbing it, and I'm going to pull it through, so it's still over that front one, and there we go. Then I'm going to transfer it to my other finger. I'm going to pull it down to the length I want. Then I'm going to flatten it there and pull it through. It is fiddly, it does take a little bit of controlling, but you will get used to it, as I found. So in as a normal stitch, over the front part, grab the bit that's behind the finger, pull it through, swap to the other index finger, tighten it to the size you want, flatten it down so it's out of the way. You might get away with not doing that, but I'd found it easier, and then continue it as if it was a double crochet. So we go in, over the top, pick it up from behind. You see I'm sort of twisting, there's a little twist just to make sure it doesn't drop off more than anything, and I'm going to twist it to pull it through, transfer the loop to make it size, hold it down and pull it through. I'm going to continue through for the whole line. So I've picked up the bit at the back, transfer to the other finger, flatten it, and finish it as a double crochet. We've got the dog coming in now, so you can probably hear a clattering on the laminate floor here. So here we go. So in, let me keep that a little bit shorter, over the top. It just sort of, well, can you see where I'm grabbing it from? I'll just turn it over so you can see which part I'm grabbing here. So it goes over, grabs the bit at the back, it twists over it, you pull it through, swap the fingers, pull that loose to the tightness that you require, flatten it out of the way because they do get in the way, and continue. So in, over, pick it up at the back, through, swap hands, flatten it, and finish the DC. So that's all it is at the end, is a double crochet. So through, over the top, grab, pull it through onto the other finger. First row is always a nightmare because you've got all this curling around as well. When you get going after a few rows, it's much easier. So into the stitch as normal, over the top, grab the back, pull it through, tighten it, flatten it, and finish the stitch. So we're going to do that a few more times on this row. And we're going to do it all the way to the end actually, because it is one that you're going to have to practice. Must admit, the first few times I did it, I'm like, I haven't got a clue where this is going, so I'm hoping this is going to help. It's the transfer to the other finger that I found was a little bit different to some. Flatten, because I just could not hold it otherwise. So across, pick it up, pull it through, the length you want. And I found the length of the loops were more consistent doing this. I mean, you might want longer loops, so obviously then you just extend your finger. You may want smaller loops, because I had contemplated that, you know, because obviously I make a lot of doll items. I was trying to think of a way of doing it, so I might sort of I know, maybe vary it, use a stick or something like that. We might have a go in a second actually. So we go in over the top, grab it at the back, it twists over that top bit, which we'll do naturally anyway. Swap fingers, flatten it down and pull it through. So in, across, pull through, swap, flatten and complete. I don't do many basic tutorials like this, but I just wanted to share with you how I managed to achieve it, and I was quite pleased that it worked, and that was the main thing. So I thought if it could help somebody at least. This is the next to last stitch, so I'm pulling it through, swapping it, flattening it, and then the very last stitch I'm going to do just as a double crochet. So that is our first row of loops, and they look pretty even. So I'm going to do a chain because I want to turn, and I'm going to turn. Now these so-and-sos do get in the way, so you have to get used to sort of flattening them down as you're working, because this next row is just a double crochet row. So just in each stitch, because if you look now, this is sort of the front side, isn't it, where the loops are. So the double crochet is always on the front side, and the loops are actually on the back. So this is just one double crochet, so I don't really need to show you this, so I'll just potter along getting that double crochet done. And it also anchors it by doing this double crochet round and makes it a solider product. And if you did do this as a loop row, your loops would be on the wrong side anyway, so you do need to do it for that reason. But it does make the work a little bit more of a solid piece. I mean, depending, you could be doing half trebles, you could be doing trebles at this point. It's just a row that's in between. But I just think the double crochets are nice and solid, that's all. So we have one more, in we go. And we're going to do our chain, and we're going to turn, and we're going to have another row of our loops. I'm not going to do loads of these for you, because you might be better off just pausing the video, watching it, stopping and starting, and just go and have a practice on your own and maybe come back to it later. My first stitch, because each end, have you noticed, I'm just doing a double crochet, because again it gives you a nice edge rather than going straight into the stitch, which is something else I like to do, especially if you're going to be sewing things together. It's good to have that just one single stitch there. So where we were going, that was just a double crochet first, wasn't it? So our first loop stitch, it goes in as normal, goes over the top, it picks up this back one here. You see how it twists over, it pulls through. I transfer to my other finger just to tighten it, so I know what size I want there. I then flatten it and complete the stitch. So we go in, over, grab, pull through, change fingers. Seems a lot of faffing about, but it does work. And finish the stitch. So in, over, grab, pull through, swap fingers for your loop, flatten your loop and pull it through. So, oh, can you see? That's the other thing you've got to watch now. These get in the way, so you need to be constantly holding them. So it is a more fiddly stitch, but you do get used to it after a little while. I sort of quite enjoyed doing it, to be honest. I found it quite sort of relaxing. So in, over, pull it through, swap it over, flatten it and pull it through. So you may know an easier way of doing it. Perhaps I'm making it more complicated. I found it made it easier for me, but I could be making it more complicated. So in and pull it through, release to make it the length we want. Can you see how there you could actually sort of make it as long as short as you want, but I just use my finger as a guide for the sizing, that was all. In, over, grab, pull it through, swap the fingers, flatten it and move it. I mean, there's a lot of times I'm having to rewrap this hand because I sort of let go and I move things, but again, it becomes just like a routine after a while. So in, over, grab, throw, swap, tighten to size, and complete the stitch. It's just keeping it out of the way, that's all. When I say flatten, I just mean push it down, like there. I'm just going to push it down so it's out of my way and continue the stitch. If you do have a go at it, you find it okay, please pop a comment in there. It's always good to sort of get people's sort of opinions, even if sometimes they are sort of more constructive criticism. Constructive criticism's good. Negative criticism isn't good. I know if I'm looking at other people, if I don't like something they do, I do not put something unpleasant, because everybody has different ways of doing it. So it's not for me to say they are right or wrong. If they prefer it that way, they prefer it that way. But it is nice to see comments or ideas. What could you actually use this for? There's lots of things. I mean, first thing I thought there was a lion's mane or something like that. I know they're used for babies' bonnets quite traditionally. It's quite often knitted as well, that, rather than crocheted. But there's lots of applications. So if you've got an idea, just let me know. Or if you've had a go and it worked for you, again, let me know. Oh, I've twisted it. If it gets twisted, just take it out. Start again. Okay, through. It's only one stitch. Cross over, flatten and pull through. And my last stitch is just a double crochet. So now we can see we have 2 rows of pretty even loop stitches, don't we? So just keep practicing on that. Shall I do another couple of rounds? I'll do another couple of rows. I'm just trying to think if I can think of a way to sort of try and do small ones. I'm looking round to see what I've got in my room, but we need a double crochet row anyway first while I'm doing that. So just 1 double crochet in each of these stitches, and you get used to sort of just flattening these down as you're working. It's weird, as more you've got, the easier it is to do, to be honest. So just a double crochet row. The cat has actually been really good. I normally shut her out when I've got the yarn out, but she was settled on the dog's bed, so I thought it was a bit mean to move her. And she's not got up. That's because she's not seen the wool. That's why. I have to keep all my wool in boxes well away from her, because she does take great pleasure in rolling around with them. So here we go. I'm just imagining something I could do. Make a nice edge to a doll skirt or something like that. That'd be quite cool. There we go. So I'm at the end of the double crochet row now. Now let's imagine if we do want, I'm just going to grab something. I'm going to grab a crochet hook. That might not be the best option, but let's see what I've got. Now I've got a paintbrush here, that will do. I just wanted to see if something worked, that's all. So we're going to do a chain turn, and we're going to do just a double crochet in the first one. And I'm going to try and do some littler loops, see how that works, because like I say, I do a lot of smaller work. So to me, this is great for sort of houseware, larger toys, cushions, anything like that, clothing, adult clothing, children's clothing, anything like that it's great for. But at the scale I do, it's not going to actually work that well. So I know I will be using a finer wool if I did that, so it would be a bit different. So in we go. I'm going to grab it like we did. I'm going to pull it through, and as I say, I just transferred it onto my finger, didn't I? So just out of curiosity, if I brought in this, now this is going to complicate matters, isn't it? And tighten it down, then flatten it, take that out and do it. We got a tiny loop. It works. Now we go in, grab, pull it through, just transfer to the finger first. Now it does take a bit of holding this, so hold it, pop the well, like I said, for me it's like a paintbrush, in, tighten it up, carefully take it out. We need to flatten it down and then finish the stitch. That's going to take a bit of practice, but you can actually get a tiny loop if you use something like that. So I'm just going to carry on with the row as it was. So we're just normal, use my finger as the measurement, flatten it down, and there we go. mean, I've got to have a go at this with, as I say, a 4-ply, and 1-ply might be really nice if I was doing it fine. But again, well, I wouldn't use my finger, would I? So I would have to use something like that. So it would take a little bit longer until I got used to it. But it just gives you the idea, that's all. So looking good. Grab it, pull it through. And we're just going to go to the end of this one, I think. And so you've probably mastered it by now, and you've got like a scarf. A scarf would be quite cool. The only thing with it as a stitch, I think you do have to be careful that nothing's going to catch on it. Say if you made a bag, for example, I know what I'm like. If I was carrying a bag around just covered in loop stitch, there wouldn't be much left of the bag within the week. It'd be absolutely trashed. So you do have to think about that as well. Yarn caught a little bit there. But this moving over from one hand to the other for the loop, I found did work quite well. So I didn't want to just, I mean, you could just take that and do it that way, but that made you a longer loop, or you could, I just couldn't hold it. It just didn't work for me. So that's why I did the transfer. It allowed me to alter its size. Then I flattened it and continued. Obviously, just however it works for you. My method may not work at all. I got a loop caught that time. So I'm talking too much, not concentrating. Pull it through. There we go. One, pull it through and over. Need to do a little Ferrero Rocher cover this week. It is going to be a little clown. I don't know, I thought, well, I mean, some people are scared of clowns, aren't they? So I had thought that it could be like a Halloween-y project, but then other people love clowns, so then it's not a Halloween-y project. So I don't know. Depends on how scary you want to make your clown look, I suppose. But I'm going to be doing a little clown. He's already half done, so that's going to be one of my next videos. Last stitch is a double crochet. And that's all I'm doing. That is all we're doing, because it's just same old for each one. So all you've got to do is repeat. I started with a double crochet row, then I did my first loop stitch, then I do a double crochet, loop, double crochet, alternating them, because you need to be working the loop stitch from the back of your work, as you can see from the back there. Again, I've done it in a number 4 hook. I use a 3.5 usually for this sort of size, but it's just easier for you to actually see. So I hope that's helped somebody. I quite like it. I haven't got a clue what I'm going to do with it, but I do like it. And just because I was sort of forced myself into having to do the stitch for the project, and I'm so glad I did, because I actually love it. It's nice to have that different sort of texture in crochet, because I know there's a lot of people out there think that crochet is just granny squares. Oh, there is so much more to crochet than just granny squares. So thank you for watching. As I say, I hope it's helped somebody. Please pop me a comment down below. Please like, subscribe and share, etc, etc. I only have a few basics techniques as far as my crochet is concerned, but mainly I'm doing the amigurumi, the chocolate covers and things like that, and my doll crochet, of course. So if you've not seen my channel before, pop and have a look at some of the other crochet things. There's a lot of dolly things in there as well, but there are playlists for different things, so you can just pop onto the playlist. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye for now.